this Blackie.
And Bear.
And this is Old WAYZ number 51.
51.
Now in the last one, we did the canning and we had to cut it short because of time constraints. But this was the result. This is that stew he was putting together. It's got the meat, it's got the vegetables in there, carrots and everything. It is fully sealed like that, and it's still dished down. That's how you tell it's still good. You take the ring off of it. And as long as that stays concave down there, you know it's well sealed and whatever. If this pops up, don't eat it. Air's got into it, bacteria or whatever. That's how you tell it's still safe. As long as it's in, you're good. Bring this out, throw it in the pot, bring it up to a boil, you're ready to go. Homemade stew.
And it's not as hard as it sounds. A lot of people are scared of pressure canning. Respect it, but don't fear it, okay? This is kind of turned into a mini-series. We've done wet vacuum sealing.
For like the chicken pieces and stuff we did.
And we've done dry vacuum sealing.
Which is what we demonstrated last time.
With the rice and the beans.
Dry stuff like beans, rice, pastas, etc. You can vacuum seal them into cans. That way you can buy in the big bulk bags, fill up what you're going to use in the near future, let's say a big old container of, and then you can the rest of it for later use and know it's going to be good. It's not going to get mold in it or whatever. Would be a good thing. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you could do stuff like flour or something like that too.
You can, but you've got to be real careful when you do it, because if you get the flour, the dust into your machine, it can ruin it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be aware of that. But yes, you can. Mm-hmm. You can do flour.
Because I was thinking something like flour or something like that. You know, you go buy a big sack of flour.
Right.
And even if you just put it into a plain old gallon jug or something and sealed it up, that would be better than leaving it in the bag open, you know.
Yeah, if you're gonna put your flour or sugar or salt or whatever into a quart jar like this, you want to do it with your jar ring finger tight, and then set this to the wide mouth. Put it over it. It may not go over the ring. I haven't tested it, so I don't know for certain.
Mm-hmm.
But I highly recommend that you do it. The vacuum sealers are fairly inexpensive, and I have done dry stuff. I've done wet stuff like the chicken and pork, things like that, beef. I vacuum sealed those, and this has been mostly dry items like beans and rice.
Coffee. You could probably do coffee.
You can do coffee, yes.
Coffee'd be good.
Now, we've found at my house, we're cooking, when we cook for 4, okay? It's, well, there's 4 of us, and a little pint jar of rice will more than satisfy our needs.
Mm-hmm. For a side serving.
Yeah, for a side serving.
Because it is so compact. And that,
But you know, when a cup of rice will expand out, and you can feed 2 or 3 people off of 1 cup of rice.
right.
And a pint jar is 2 cups.
And it also allows you, like we've talked and other things, spices are a big thing. Well, it allows you to experiment a little bit of, I've seen it done, of taking dry rice and then adding in paprika or whatever dry into it, sealing it up like that, so when it comes time to cook it, it's not just plain rice, it's got some flavor. How about some bouillon, you know, or something like, something that's not going to taint it or affect it, but there's about to be a dry flavoring we can add to it.
We talked about portable soup
Yeah.
in the last episode, and making portable soup is a challenge. There's a real fine line there that you have to walk to make portable soup. And if you can make your portable soup, you can just drop the dry pieces of soup into a container and vacuum seal it, and you're good.
You know, when you get a ramen,
Right.
it's got a sealed up seasoning packet. That might be the way to do it, so that you'd have like let's say a big thing of rice, and then be able to generate those small seasoning packets yourself.
Right.
Like a tablespoon of this or whatever. It would be separate from the rice, and you could like vacuum seal that, or those little bitty ones that melts the stuff together. You know what I'm talking about. They sell them a lot of times for resealing tater chip bags and stuff. But be able to put your seasonings and stuff in a separate bag and then set it in there. Even get one of the teeny tiny Ziplocs, you know what I mean? That the little bitty snack size one.
Yeah.
And be able to put spices in there so it wouldn't contaminate the rice or whatever, or the beans or whatever. At the same time, whenever I had to use it, I would have spices.
Right.
You know, and that would make a difference.
Another thing, when you're dry canning your beans or your rice or whatever, don't go with dry jars. Don't put anything. If you insist on sterilizing your jars, let them dry completely, totally. Because if you don't, what you're putting in there is going to mold. It's going to rot.
You can't have any moisture.
No. And when you do that, let your beans, let your rice sleep in the freezer for a day or two. That way, if there's any little creepy crawlies in there, they just become another protein source. And
Now, you'd know more than me, but I remember an operation of taking about this size jars, and they washed and cleaned them, and then they laid them in the oven and set the oven on low.
right,
And to make sure they were 100% dry,
right.
and then they dry canned in that, because I remember them doing that. That would be a way you could do it.
And, well, one method to dry canning is to put your jars in the oven at, like he said, about 200 degrees, which would be around the lowest setting for your average oven. And after they've come up to heat, take them out long enough to put your dry product inside, and then put your lid back on and finger tight your ring and set it back in the oven with after the rest of your jars are full. Put them back in the oven and turn the oven off and shut the door. I've done that. That works.
As it cools, it draws that vacuum.
As it cools off, yes, it does. It does draw the vacuum, and it's an effective seal. It works just like this.
Concave.
Yeah, this is, I think we did in WAYZ 50, we did a sample of what it sounds like with the click, 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 that will show you that it's not sealed. This one, that's sealed.
100% sealed, no clicking.
There's absolutely no clicking on it at all. But like we're saying, you can do that with dry product. You can use your oven as a canner to do that. And it may, depending on how long your turnaround is on getting your jars filled, it may toast the rice a little bit. It's nothing to worry about. It's not going to hurt you. When you pull it out and pop the seal, remember to wash. Put those beans, put that rice through a water bath and get all the little floaty parts out before you cook it. Pour it off, run your hand through it in the bowl. And
What he's saying is, once you take the lid off, treat it like you're taking it right out of the bag.
Yeah.
Go ahead and wash it. Even though you put it in there and dried it and everything, go ahead and wash it, and then put it in the pot and cook it.
Right. And, rinse it once or twice, just to make sure it's good and clean. Same thing with your beans. You might want to let the beans sit in the water overnight. I know my mom and my grandmothers did that. So it cuts down on the
Cook time.
yeah, it does cut down on the cook time, but it also will cut back on people having flatulence.
Yes. gives a chance for the gas to get out of it. We would, at Rendezvous, we're gonna be making like black-eyed peas and rice. And we would take the dry peas
So-
and well, tonight, when it was, we're getting close to bedtime, we'd take the pot, we'd put the beans in there, put water on it, bring it onto the fire, and just bring it to a boil. As soon as it came to a boil good, let it boil for 2 or 3 minutes, we'd put a good tight lid on it, pull it off the side of the fire, and just let it sit there all night.
Right.
That was bringing it up, killing anything that was in there, letting it soak up that water, and let the gas off. And then tomorrow, about lunch, they've been sitting there 8 or 9 hours. Then we'd bring it up to a good hard boil, and then bring it into a slow simmer. And that way, if any bacteria got in there during the night, bringing it up to boil the second time killed anything.
You may even pour the water off that it's been sitting in and put fresh water in.
Yeah.
I've seen folks do that too with good success.
For rices and pasta, it's good to do that because of the starch that's coming out, and it gives it that starchy taste if you don't rinse your pasta or rinse your rice.
Yeah. He mentioned pasta. You can also do the vacuum seal in the jar for pastas. Now, yeah, with a spaghetti noodle that's this long, you're gonna have to break it in half to put in there. But that should not be a problem. Or your elbow macaroni or your shells, whatever. Just put them in, pop the vacuum sealer on it, activate it, bing, bang, boom, you're done. And it will sit on the counter. I found, I told you I had some oxygen things.
Absorbent.
I found them.
Good.
I found my oxygen absorbers where I had hidden them from myself. Put them in the jar too. Okay, just as a secondary precaution. You can put them on the bottom and set the pasta on top of it, or put them, halfway through or whatever. Just drop one in there.
Well, like he's done on this, right on the lid with a Sharpie. You're not gonna reuse this lid anyway.
No.
Right on the lid with a Sharpie, the date that you canned this. When you put them in your larder, you always rotate oldest to the front. See, now this isn't gonna go in the thing, and I'm never gonna touch it for 10 years. This is gonna go to the back of the stack, and it's probably, depending on how much I like this stuff, it's gonna rotate to the front probably in the next 6, 8 months.
The other
Or
night,
less.
yeah, the other night for supper, I pulled, I think I may have mentioned this, but I pulled a jar of corn and a jar of Crowder peas out that were 5 years old. No problem.
Yeah, just fine. I've seen 10-year-old stuff
Yeah.
that are still perfectly
The
good.
seal was not compromised. I popped the lid, dropped them in a jar, and my grandkids ate them like they were going out of style. Like there wasn't gonna be any more. Well, like I said, we've done a couple of episodes on vacuum sealing. Maybe just, did we do one or two?
2 at least.
Yeah, we've done at least 2 on the vacuum sealing. We've done a 2-parter on pressure canning, and we've done one on dry vacuum sealing. This is wet vacuum sealing. This is dry vacuum sealing. And the next link in the chain, we weren't expecting this to turn into a series, but it has, is this. This is a dryer that I bought off of one of the bigbox.coms a couple of weeks ago. It's got 5 separate trays to stack up. Of course, the lid to go over the top. And this is the base. This
Got it.
is the heart of your machine. And all it does is it just gets warm and blows warm, dry air up through the column.
Which comes up through all of the
Yeah.
slots.
And you can see the hole in the middle.
Yeah.
So you've got a really good air circulation.
And then there's a fine amount of holes up here in the top, let the air flow out. So it's pressurizing it and constantly drying and forcing new air in and old air out.
Yeah, and it's also forcing the water out, the water vapor. That's the thing to it. You want to do your water vapor. Now, my plan is when we get done here, I'm gonna go to my grocery store, I'm gonna stock up on some strawberries and blueberries or whatever they've got. Maybe some bananas.
Whatever's in season right now and cheap.
Absolutely, whatever they've got. Now, when you stack these up, you want to put your highest water content on the bottom. Regardless of what it is, you want to put your highest water content on the bottom. And then go stack it up to the driest stuff on top.
There's enough clearance between it, you've got about a 1/2 inch clearance.
Yeah,
So that, you don't want to cut a 2-inch thick piece anyway, you want to slice thin and put it in here. A lot of this stuff, you can do herbs, you can do, you know, fruits, stuff like that, banana chips,
yes,
you know, etc. A way to create something that you can then turn around once you get done here, use that dry canner, because they're dry now, or the vacuum sealer, and seal them up and use them, keep them in the thing. So you've got herbs, you've got spices, you've got flavorings,
right.
banana chips to put into the oatmeal, strawberries to go in the oatmeal, into the cereal, you know.
Or just to eat because it's a random day ending in Y.
Yeah,
You know, after school snacks for the kids.
there's nothing else sweet. We got strawberries, here you go.
Peaches in the next month or two are gonna start coming in here in Alabama.
Yep.
And this is gonna see a lot of dried peaches this year, I can already tell. And they'll go down here toward the bottom because it's a high liquid fruit. But like I said, I'm gonna go walk through the grocery store and see what we've got over there. And I probably will go ahead and buy some herbs, that whatever they've got on the shelf, and place them out in here and dry them. And the cool thing is, get your jar. Pretend this stew's not here, that this is just an empty glass jar. You can drop all that dried fruit in here and vacuum seal it. Like Blackie was saying a minute ago, you can take your dried herbs and put them in. Be sure you label it, okay?
Because it's all green.
Yeah, it's going to be sort of a greenish, a dry greenish brown when you get done. And is this parsley or is this
Oregano, or thyme, or
yeah.
rosemary, or
What is this? Well, put it on the lid so you'll know.
is that paprika or is that crushed red pepper?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't mix them up.
Yeah, is it hot red pepper?
Yeah.
But this is going to be probably WAYZ 52. What I will do is off camera, I will do some stuff and then dry seal it. This is the kind of stuff.
He paid money for that.
Are you impressed?
Not at all.
I'm impressed.
You know, but yeah.
Denote the sarcasm.
Yeah.
But anyway, I will probably do some of these in vacuum seal jars with the oxygen absorbers, okay? Because the shelf life will be almost indefinite. Yeah, you can wrap a little wire around it and hang it up in your kitchen, make the herbs, get your kitchen smelling nice. Or you can put them in a jar and preserve the smell.
And one of the advantages to this is you get a deal on strawberries. Especially when they're getting a little old and there's one or two in there that ain't too great and they want to reduce the price. It doesn't matter. Take the ones that's a little old, pitch out of the way, take the rest, slice them up, put them in here. You fire this up, your whole kitchen's going to smell like strawberry, which ain't a bad thing, okay? Then you put it in the dry. The herbs, you get a good deal on some herbs. Wild plants you can dry in this as well, you know, so you want to dry some sort of wild edible that's around in the spring, like greenbrier or wood sorrel or whatever, because you want to cook with it or utilize it. This is how you make spices, guys.
Oh,
Flavorings.
cattails.
Yeah.
The entire plant is edible on a cattail. You can take and you can slice the stem, dry them here. You can take the root bulb, slice it up thin, stick it in here and dry it. You can make a very usable flour out of that. If you wanted to get you some green coffee beans, if they won't toast, but you can dry them for storage and then come back and toast them later. There was something else I was going to mention.
Well, you can dry. Your oven is great for making jerky. Where I got a good deal on meat, I want to slice it and then thin, dry that. You can make jerky out of just about anything, including fish.
Yeah.
You know.
Here's the instruction book. Read the instruction. If you want to buy you one of these, we both encourage you to buy it. Do it. Buy it. Pull the trigger. Read the book. You can make jerky in here. It's not hard. Okay, all you're doing is just drying it out. This thing operates at around 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 65 degrees centigrade, I think.
About the heat of a hairdryer.
Yeah. Let's see. 155 degrees Fahrenheit is 65 degrees centigrade.
I remember a redneck dryer that was made out of a wooden work cabinet that was about 24 inches deep and maybe 48 inches high. And he got window screen and took 2x2s and put the window screen on it, nailed it all together so it was like trays you slid in. So he opened up the doors and slid it in. And then he had 4 hair dryers, blowing air through it, and the air came out the top, went back over, and went back into the hair dryer on 2 of them, and the 3 of them, and one was open to let air out.
When I was a kid, Mama had one that was about, I don't know, 30 by 30, stood about 30 inches tall, was a wooden frame, and it had like 6 different screens in it. And like he was saying, you just pulled the screen out the end of it and loaded it up and pushed it back in and left it out in the June and July and August sun.
We had an old derelict station wagon. Didn't have a motor in it, did nothing. But we'd cleaned out the inside real good and put a sheet of plywood down in it and had window screens that were sitting up on bricks. And in Alabama sun, the car was black. That ought to tell you something. It'd been spray painted, rattle can black for that reason. Glass was still in it, the windows sealed up good, and you'd open up that back door. It had, the door came out this way. It wasn't a hatch. The door came open this way. And
that was one of those high class
Oh
stations.
yeah, it was I think it was a Rambler, honestly, or a Chevy or something. But late 50s or early 60s model, and it sat out in the middle of that sun, and you'd put food on those window screens in there, and in 12 hours it would dehydrate anything.
Y'all think we joke when we say this, but the inside of a car with all the windows rolled up in July, allowing for June and August, can get up to close to 130 degrees.
Oh, more than that. I've seen internal temperatures 150.
Yeah, you know, it will kill you.
Yeah.
It will. It's lethal. If you're locked inside the car and can't get out, it can be lethal. But that's the pretext with what he was telling you. It works. It works down here. I know that, and I'm not the harbinger of doom, but y'all have been watching, okay? Y'all know and have heard things that I'm not going to go into. Well, this is a good way to avoid the problems.
We started telling y'all 2 years ago now that the food prices were going to go up. They are. We started telling y'all it wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of stockpile a little bit just in case.
Just in case.
Now I'm hearing from people that I know, I'm close to, that are working in pharmacies, that certain medicines are getting hard to get because the factories in China are shutting down and you can't get whatever this is simply because they're not producing it or whatever. So, yeah, like we said, it would be a really good idea to kind of get
Hint.
any medicine that you've got to have. It would probably be a real good idea to talk to your care provider of getting like an extra month supply stuck back just in case of shortage. Food, spices and stuff, you know, we're probably always going to find rice, we're probably always going to find noodles. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to start picking up and start practicing the spices, because you may be stuck with a limited amount of meats, a limited amount of types of dishes, and have to do like our ancestors did and find a way to dress it up.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome. I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
One of the smart things that the French did when they came in and colonized up around the Great Lakes and down along the Gulf Coast was they talked to the people who were already here. And one of the best ingredients for soups is a thing called filet.
Filet, you heard of filet gumbo?
Yeah, it's called filet. And they didn't, it was already here when the French got here. They got it from the Choctaw Indians and from the Indians along the Gulf Coast. But all filet is sassafras leaves dried out and powdered.
It makes a thickener in soups and stews.
Find you a sassafras tree, dry some leaves in your dryer.
Sassafras root makes a really good tea, makes a
Yes,
good
it does.
beverage.
And it's good for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you know when the government's hollering that it's bad for you, it's got to be good for you.
Yeah, I mean, you can cultivate you a sassafras tree or several sassafras trees in your yard. I don't know what zones they would grow in. We're in zone 8 as far as plants go.
As we said in the past, check with your farmer's co-op. He will tell you
Yeah.
what trees can grow.
Yeah, check with your co-op, check with your extension agent, check with, you know, your local, your state universities that specialize in agriculture. You know, the information is there if you will go dig it up. And like we have harped since Old Ways #1, Old Ways are not hard.
No.
They may require some creative engineering, but they're not hard. Okay, we have gotten to be a society of very lazy people, present company included,
Mm-hmm.
and you know we've got to get past that. We really do. We got to get past that, and we have showed you, like we said, wet vacuum sealing, dry vacuum sealing, pressure canning, and now drying. And you can combine them.
And
They
then
combine very well,
The only thing missing is smokehouse.
which is an upcoming Old Ways because
That's going to be where you're taking a big hunk of meat, like a whole ham,
yeah,
and preserving it.
or bacon.
Or bacon.
Yeah,
You
we're
know.
probably going to do bacon, just in the interest of time.
And, you know, we remember it. You'd take various wild game. You'd save the fat from the hog, the fat from the coon, the fat from the cow. You'd take wild game, mix it with it, grind it up, make wild game sausage.
Yes.
You know, like they talk
Now-
about having Polish dogs. We had possum dogs and everything else.
But now the fat he's talking about is not off of the wild animal, because they eat such a heavy amount of acorns with a whole lot of tannin in
That
it.
fat's yellow. You don't want
Yeah,
to
you don't want to eat that. He's talking about domestic fat off of a domestic animal. For that matter, you can go to the store and buy containers of lard.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, it's already preserved, it's already vacuum sealed, and it's already
clean,
shelf stable.
ready to go.
Yeah, all you gotta do is just pop the top, dip out what you need, and put the rest in the refrigerator,
Yeah.
and you're done.
And you're taking, you know, what is pemmican? All it is pounded up, processed, meat and pounded up, processed berries or whatever, and lard. And was the staple food of survival back in the days because it didn't go bad. You could heat it, you could fry it, you could dissolve it in water, make a stew out of it. It didn't necessarily taste great, but it would fill a hole when there was nothing else.
Yeah, following along Blackie's statement, the two main ingredients in pemmican are kidney fat, suet, real honest to goodness suet, and jerky, powdered jerky. For short-term storage, yeah, you can put the nuts and the fruit and stuff like that in it, but that doesn't have a long shelf life. There's actually been pemmican found, there's actually been pemmican found like out in the desert dwellings of the Indians that were out there that was 1,000 years old and still potable. You can still eat it.
The oldest food that I'm aware of they've ever found that was still edible was they found pots of honey
Yeah,
in the pyramids.
yeah.
And all they had to do was warm it up, get rid of the crystallization, it was fully edible.
Yeah, honey's one of those things that does not go bad.
It never goes bad, and having honey, because sugar might get hard to get. Well, honey has all kinds of things. A, it's a wound dressing because it's antibacterial. Two, you add it as a sweetener to foods or etc. You can substitute honey for table sugar.
Yeah.
You can use it in beverages and
One
stuff
for
like
one.
that. It never goes away. It lasts forever. Just make sure what you're buying is actual honey and not fructose corn syrup dressed up to look like honey. Because when we grew up, that was called corn cob jelly. Today they call it high fructose corn syrup. That's corn cob jelly. You know, looks and tastes like honey.
Read your label.
Yeah.
Read your label.
Brother, anything else you want to do or wrap it up?
I think we're pretty close to wrapping it up. Like we've said, we're going to do a smoking video. We are going to probably do a pemmican also. I've got some suet that I bought that I have rendered and set back. And when you render it and set it back, it's shelf stable. You know, you don't have to refrigerate it or anything. And we'll make some of the shelf stable pemmican and some of the not as shelf stable pemmican, which will probably get us out to what, 55?
55 or 60, we'll get there.
But anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed the time with us. I'm Bear.
And I'm Blackie.
We'll see y'all down the road.